All right, everybody. This meeting is being recorded. So anyway, Cheryl, would you, first of all, let me say that I'd like to take just a moment of silence for a very active individual that passed away recently in San Pedro. So if we can please take a moment of silence for Pat Carroll, very involved individual. So with that, let's take a moment of silence in her honor. Thank you. She is really someone that will be missed. Also, we have a kind of a celebration. I'd like to make sure that everyone is aware that this past week, someone had a very memorable birthday. Dan Dixon, happy birthday to you, belated. If you'd like to say something, Dan, you could say, especially if you want to tell everyone how old you are.
If you can hear.
We can hear you.
I'm happy. I'm happy to be on the sunny side of 80.
Okay. All right.
I don't know if you heard that.
We heard it. Thank you. Okay, so I want to make sure everyone understands, especially our attendees, that we have a problem with our hand-raising feature. So I'd like to let everyone know that we're going to be using the Q&A feature. And with that, on our Q&A, could you please put a question mark by your name, or just put a question mark so that we know that you have a question. Now, it can get a little dicey with this way, but we're only going to ask when we get to a particular point for comment. That's when we're going to start looking at the question. So I know we're going to have some, probably some information or some presentations or something that may require, that's going to be asked, that people are very enthused about making a comment. So I'm going to ask that your comments, if someone else has made the comment, we'd like to, you know, I don't think we need to hear them multiple times. So just be cognizant of that and make your comments brief. We want to make sure that people get to get everything that anyone needs to say is said. You know, we don't need to repeat the same item over and over again. So if we can just be open to that. And I think that is about it for right now. Anyway, Cheryl, would you like to call roll?
Brock?
Excuse me. Yeah, all board members unmute yourselves right now for roll call, and then mute yourself after it's done. Thank you.
Brock?
Here.
Armando?
Right here.
John?
Here.
Mary?
Here.
Braun?
Present.
John DeMaglio?
Here.
Dan Dixon? We know he's here. Happy birthday.
He's raising his hand for some
I
reason.
know. Cynthia Gagne?
Thank you.
There you go.
I don't know what,
Cynthia is excused.
Thank you. Gwen?
Here.
Lori? You're
Here.
here. Melanie?
Here.
Ray?
Here.
Sophia?
Here.
Chris?
Here.
Ta-da, you have quorum.
Thank you. So item number 2, a couple of announcements and a motion that was generated through the executive committee. Item A, any single address by a board member shall be no longer than 2 minutes. A board member may speak a second time after all other board members have had the opportunity to speak, if time allows. Item B, consider a motion submitted by Lori to revise the current standing rules by removing liaisons from committee participation requirement. In other words, well, Lori, would you like to kind of talk about that? And do we have the motion that we can put
Yeah,
up? on
Cheryl
the-
has it. Cheryl?
Hang on, I wasn't prepared
Okay.
for that, but I will be momentarily.
Okay, well, I can go ahead and talk about it because we've already lost a lot of time here. So currently in our standing rules, it says that all board members are required to be on at least one committee or be a liaison. And what I'm proposing is to remove the liaison component, because a liaison role is really, oh, you had it on the screen, it disappeared. The liaison role doesn't take, isn't as much work as, there it says, board appointed liaisons are expected to regularly report on activities and issues pertaining to those organizations. So basically this role right now is just attending the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment liaison meetings. It's not actively participating in something for Northwest on a committee. So, and we need more participation on our committee. So I'm proposing that we just remove that the liaison is a substitute for being on a committee. So that's basically it. And let me see if anybody's raising their, Gwen, Ray, do you want me to call on people?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Go ahead, Gwen. Can you unmute? Gwen, are you able to unmute?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
it kept going right back.
Sorry.
Could you repeat that one more time? That there is, if you're a liaison, you no longer have to be on a committee. Is that?
Currently, our standing rules say the requirement for board members to be on to participate on at least one committee, okay, or participate as a liaison. And I'm proposing that a liaison role is not really a substitute for being on a committee. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Okay, Melanie?
Yeah, I think this is essential to do this because the liaison, you have few and far, some of them no meetings at all. And meantime, it flattens the divide because you have committee members that are working their butt off on committees while you have people that are liaisons that just either aren't attending or just there's not very much going on, so they're doing very little. So this way everybody is committing to a committee that they are contributing to.
Thank you. Are there any other questions to discuss from our board? Ray, I don't see any more raised hands, so I guess you can take the vote. This came out of committee.
Well, is there any attendees that have anything to say?
Oh,
He's care.
I do not see any questions for attendees on this item.
Okay.
It has nothing to do with it.
That's true.
Well, I mean, they still have the opportunity to comment.
That's correct.
So this came out of committee. No further discussion. Cheryl, would you take the vote count?
I will with one question regarding eligibility, please.
Eligibility for what?
Oh,
To vote.
Oh, okay. Do you want to cover that, Ray?
Well, go ahead because I want to make a statement about that. But go ahead. You want to?
Okay.
All is eligible.
Yeah, sorry about that, but currently, Gwen, you can't vote on this because your ethics training has expired. I'm so sorry. If you have it, you can send me the certificate, but if not, tonight you won't be voting on these.
On anything, correct?
She doesn't vote on anything. Now, Mary, your ethics training is up to date, but your funding training is out of date. So the only thing you wouldn't be eligible to vote on would be funding issues.
Okay.
Okay, so everybody can unmute right now while Cheryl takes the roll call.
And please let me say that my ethics training has expired, and I ran into a problem with the taking of the test or taking the training, and it got stuck, and they have not resolved the problem for me. So technically, they haven't recorded my full ethics training. So I'm going to choose not to vote this time, but Dunn is aware of the problem and they're trying to fix it.
Can you please clarify that? So you're not going to vote on anything?
I am
this
not going to
evening?
vote on anything today.
Thank you.
Unfortunately.
Sorry,
You know,
Armando.
So, okay.
That happened to me. I wrote an email to him.
Oh,
Yeah.
Armando, you're good.
So I think that takes care of all the exceptions.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm done, Cheryl.
Okay. Rock,
Yes.
Armando,
Yes.
John Barbera,
Yes.
Mary Chan,
Yes.
Braun,
Yes.
John DeMeglio,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Melanie,
Yes.
Sophia. Oh, Sophia. Still here?
Sorry, yes, I thought I pressed
Okay.
it.
We know how it goes. Chris,
Yes.
it carries. And Ray, I'm just going to put you down as abstention for everything since you're sort of in limbo.
Okay. Sounds fair.
Can I just say I love the Beatles in Sophia's room there? It's fantastic.
Thank you.
Okay. Can we go back to the agenda?
Done.
Thank you. So we have another motion out of committee. It's to consider motion to file a CIS submitted by Lori to support the project room key, council file 20 whatever.
It's on the screen.
She changed the screen.
Went a little bit too fast. 20-0478, expanding project room key efforts in LA City. Lori, would you like to talk about that?
Do I need to read this whole thing? It's been posted.
If you could just
Summarize?
summarize quick, so that-
Okay. So Project Room Key is a program instituted by Governor Newsom to allow hotels which were closed due to the pandemic to take in certain people into the hotel rooms in the hopes of COVID prevention, spreading of that. And people that were eligible were homeless that were 65 or over, or homeless who were vulnerable with health issues. And so it's been pretty successful with 34 sites and as of last week, 4,600 people. So there's a council file to support this, to continue this program. A lot of the funding is actually from the federal government. 75% is funded by FEMA. And Governor Newsom announced 2 weeks ago too, that they're now going to look at this program and take some of these hotels, which were not doing very well business-wise, and now actually look at acquiring them, owning them, and converting them into actual apartments for the people that are living there. So I could talk a lot on Project Room Key, but I just will leave it open to see if anybody has any questions.
I have comments.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead, Armando.
Yes, I've been doing a lot of research on the homeless. I'm the homeless committee chairman. I'm keeping up with it on my end, even though nobody wanted to join. And Project Room Key, they're having issues already with people who've been allowed to go in. They don't want to stay in their rooms. They go back out, hang out in the streets. Then they bring some of the people back in their rooms that shouldn't be there. That's been happening. Also, nobody is monitoring the daily influx of who's coming in, who's going out. Nobody's taking responsibility of what's happening with these individuals after they get a room. It's just everybody's happy that they're in a room, but then we have issues in regards to how long are they going to stay there. People in the neighborhoods, but once they find out that this room key is going on, they get very upset that they weren't told in their neighborhoods. So there's a lot of issues that have come up with this that people are not addressing.
Well, Armando, if I could speak to that, because I work with this on a daily basis. It is being monitored. You have to be already in the coordinated entry system. They are not prisoners at these hotels. The people are allowed to leave during the day if they need to pick up essentials or medications. They're provided 3 meals a day, and they're provided case management. This is not a program where anybody can walk in. They're not allowed to bring somebody else into their room. Okay, and they need to be in most of the hotels. It's either 7 or 8 p.m. Okay, so it is being very closely regulated, and they've already had some success with moving some of these people from the Project Room Key into some type of interim housing or shelter. So I'm not sure where you're getting your data, but I beg to differ is all I can say. It's been a very successful program. Now, one of the issues is certainly after COVID, the housing recovery plan, and the county supervisors are working on this, city council's working on this, all working together closely with LASA. And I feel it's been a successful program. I have Gwen Henry. Go ahead.
Hi, since I can't vote on this, I just would like to urge everyone to support this. I think it's a way of also making lemonade out of lemons, because the opportunity of having all of these available rooms is tremendous. I mean, when there's been so much difficulty in getting enough space and rooms for everyone who is homeless right now. But I just want to urge everyone to really consider this.
Thank you, Gwen. You know, another thing is people who were laid off were now able to go back to work that worked at the hotels. So it's also another win for this program. Did anybody else have any questions? I don't see any on. So now I'll go to attendees. If any attendees want to speak on this, could you please type your name and the word stack in the Q&A, and then I can call on you. I don't see anybody there now.
I did. I'm sorry. It takes a second. I had put a question mark in my
Who's
name.
that?
It's Noel.
Oh, I don't see it.
You know, Noel, I see actually a hand raised by your name.
Wow, that happened.
You do?
I do. I see it here.
It's been by magic because I didn't have a button to raise the hand. In any case, super short. I want to also urge support of this. This is Noel Gould. I'm on the Coastal San Pedro Neighborhood Council. I chair 2 committees and I am on 2 others as well. But this has been working and I would urge you to support it.
Thank you, Noel. And Ray, it appears that once somebody has spoken from the attendee list, their picture now shows up on the screen and they have the ability to raise their hand. Virtually raise their hand. So I don't see any other names. Anybody? Let me go back to our board. Mary Chan, go ahead and unmute.
Hi. So I agree with Lori too, because I've actually personally went to a local Project Room Key hotel. I've met the people. They are medical professionals and security people who check in the people every day, the guests of the hotel. So like Lori have said, there is strict guidelines for people to come through, and it's a fantastic project. Please support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. And having said that, no program's perfect. And when
No.
it started off, you know, they certainly had some bumps in the road, but all in all, the ability to get help to people who weren't even aware of COVID out on some of these encampments is fantastic. So, okay. Thank you, Ray.
Any other?
Well, no. Well, can somebody raise their hand again?
You know,
we're already running late because
we're very late right now.
Problems, yeah. It's up to you.
Okay, so
Okay.
let's go for the vote.
Okay. Ms. Cheryl?
Is this out of committee?
Yes.
Yes, it is. Out of executive committee.
Thank you. Rock?
Abstain.
Armando?
Abstain.
John Barbera?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes, please.
Ron?
Yes.
John DeMeglio?
Abstain.
Dan? Mr. Dixon? I'll come back to Mr. Dixon. Lori?
Yes.
Melanie?
Yes.
Sophia?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Dan Dixon? Well,
Okay.
you have 7 yeses and 3 abstentions and 1 apparently out of room.
Okay, Ray, somebody is, Diana has now raised her hand on this.
Did Dan vote? I didn't
No.
hear.
No,
No.
we can't seem to hear Dan.
I don't see Dan on the thing anymore. He must have dropped connection.
Maybe that's why Diana has her hand up. Let me find out.
Oh,
Diana?
I have my hand up because actually for the previous item, you had what appeared to be 2 motions that you showed us, and you voted on one. I didn't know what was happening with the rest of that.
There was only
Right. Well, the top one is the one we were voting on. We'll get to the next one next.
Okay, thank you.
And what happened to my stuff? Sorry. Now I've got to get back to that one. I'll be there in a minute. And this is the one we're doing right now.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, what's the
7
vote?
yes, 3 abstentions, and 1 out of room.
That's an official category now.
Yeah.
That's how I record it.
There actually is an official category when you file the community impact statement.
We consider them absent, I think, when you do that. But
Okay,
now
so there was,
we're going to do this one.
which one is that?
No, sorry, I'm moving ahead. Sorry.
Diana says on the liaison one, there was a second motion.
No, she's saying if you look at the screen, there are 2 motions on this document, and she was asking about this lower motion, which is the one we're going to do next.
Okay.
All right.
So
what is that?
These opened separately, but there
Are you going to put that on the screen, Miss Cheryl?
Well, when you get to it, yeah.
Okay.
It's actually
No, I don't see what motion Diana's talking about.
Well, don't worry about it yet, because we're not there yet.
Okay, so what is it that we're trying to do? I'm a little
Well, you
confused.
just finished item 2C, and now you
Right.
can move on.
Okay, but I'm looking for another motion. We only had 2.
No. Item 2F is also a motion, and it's the one Diana was asking, and for some reason it put it in a separate document. Here's 2F. Or no, is that actually was back related to this, I think.
Okay.
Talking about dropping liaisons from the standing rules so Diana thought this was 2 motions. It is actually the same motion.
If it was the same motion, you didn't talk about the second half of the motion before you voted on it. You only talked about the first, so that's why it looked like 2 motions.
No, we explained the role of the liaison. It was just 1 motion.
Can you put
The
it back
text at the bottom is just a text from the
explanation.
standing rules as
Yeah.
reference only.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Okay.
Cheryl.
You're
All right,
welcome.
can we go back to so we're
Yes.
through with this CIS. Can we go back to the agenda, please?
Yep. Give me a minute. Oh goodness.
It's the
moved my stuff
census,
around.
Ray.
Here you go.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, so this is a reminder for everyone. If you have not done your census, please do your census. It's due October 31st. It's really important that your census be filled out. I just got a text message from Dan. Looks like he's having some problems. So, okay. Item E, all board members are asked to help recruit candidates for our 3 open board seats, our business, education, and census track. 2964 applications are due August 4th. Be thoughtful in your recruitment. It's really important that we get people, as we had spoken earlier, that they are involved in their committee or a committee. So let's try to get good people, because we just want to keep up the track record of all the good people that we have on our neighborhood council.
Ray,
Yes, yes.
we've had about 10 more people join attendees. So do you want to repeat the rule about the fact that there's no raise hand feature?
Okay, let me finish this last part, this last one, and then I'll go over it, because this is not going to require a vote here from the people out in the audience or the attendees. So item F, that is going to be we need to appoint an alternate board member or members to issue community impact statements. Right now, Lori is the one that does it for us. It'd be nice if we had a backup or two. Is there someone who would like to be considered for a community impact statement provider?
Okay, Gwen has her hand up. Go ahead and unmute.
It was actually about the other 2 items, but so currently we don't have another individual to submit. Are you looking for 2 additional people?
We can have up to 5.
Oh.
Okay, so we're just going to have alternates. You know, if I got shot to the moon, it didn't come back, you could still file statements. Are you interested, Gwen?
As long as you give me a call, like phone call. Well, along with an email.
Well, you're going to be an alternate, so
Yeah.
you know, if I'm not available. So are you interested in being one of the alternates?
Yes, and I'm hoping
Okay.
somebody else might participate as well.
Well, we have a couple of other hands raised. Melanie, go ahead and unmute.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Okay.
Okay, Melanie.
So Melanie's up there. Dan also has his hand raised.
Can you hear me?
Yes. You're back.
Yes, I'd be fine for an alternate.
Okay, so Melanie and Dan and Gwen. Yes, Gwen? Okay. That's great. I don't see any other hands raised.
Okay. So I want to make sure that there is a clear understanding that there is, Lori, correct me if I'm wrong, there is a certain level of training or something that you have to go through to a certain degree, and you have to be dependable. I mean, I think I would like to be able to feel that every one of you have, at least during the course of this year, has the opportunity to file. So that way, you know, if you're called upon, you have the experience already. So
I'll go ahead and add to that, Ray. It's very simple. It explains it on Empower LA site. I have to actually submit the something to the Empower LA, telling them to go ahead and issue you a username and a password. But one of the things that's nice about this is once you learn this, you learn a little bit more about how to navigate the council files on the site. So it's a nice way to, that's how I learned. So Ray, I don't think we have to vote on these. You just can appoint these people.
yeah, I mean, it seems like we'll have 4 if all 3 are agreeable to it. So I'd like to congratulate Gwen, Melanie, and Dan as our alternate community impact statement providers. So thank you very much, all three of you. Really appreciate it. Okay, moving right along. Public officials report. Cheryl, can you move up the agenda a little bit? Thank you. So I'm not sure, do we have any?
We do. We have somebody from Patrick O'Donnell's office. She said she just wants to listen, but I thought I would just check. Did you want to speak? Say hello. I unmuted her.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. Awesome. Yeah. Well, I mean, I just wanted to sit in and listen and kind of see if there's any assistance that the state could provide. Wanted to let folks know that if you know anyone that is having issues with the EDD, especially folks who applied for unemployment in March and April and still have not received their unemployment, please feel free to reach out to me and I can definitely help out and reach out to our EDD liaison and get that unemployment going. Other than that, obviously the California state budget passed. I think we've all kind of heard a lot about it so far, but we're in a $54 billion gap this year. Obviously, COVID has impacted every sector. Luckily, the governor has allocated $1 trillion of flexible federal aid. So we'll see that coming in and out of cities and counties throughout the year, just to see where it's needed. On behalf of the assembly member, one of the big bills that he had that was related to COVID was AB 1384. It might be kind of moot now. AB 1384 was just security for schools, for them not to be liable for COVID outbreaks so that they can keep the limited resources and money that they have to focus on education and the students. And so it would just limit their liability in case of any COVID outbreaks in schools. Other than that, this morning, the school superintendent gave us the notification that LA County schools would not be reopening in the fall. It's going to be all online. Those are kind of the big things going on in the state. If you have any specific questions or anything you'd want me to take up to my team, I can definitely help and assist with that. And I'm going to make sure to stay on for the whole meeting tonight.
Thank you so much. I do not see any hands raised from our board. If there's anybody from attendees that wishes to say something, please type your name in the Q&A and the word stack, S-T-A-C-K. Okay, Ray, I don't see anything coming in. And I didn't recognize any other public officials. So if there are any that want to speak, they're going to need to type their name in the Q&A also.
Okay. So in the meantime, excuse me. In the meantime, can we get budget advocate?
Okay, Ray. So for budget rep, I'm going to do a report, but I'd like Lori to let Clarissa Ortiz unmute.
I did just now.
Okay. And so we had our town hall for our region on the 28th of June.
Right.
And it was very long, the election, so we didn't get to a lot of the things like the services. So be prepared throughout the year. We're coming up, we're gonna start addressing some of the services to get them covered because they weren't covered a lot in our town hall. I was not reelected as a budget advocate. Clarissa Ortiz, who's on Central, was elected as one of the budget advocates. And so Lori and I will be your reps and working together with them. And so Clarissa, are you on? Are you there?
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, give me 1 second. Okay, I think I'm putting this up right. So yes, I just want to say thank you. I want to give Melanie, obviously, a big thank you just for being in the front line as secretary and as a budget advocate, as well as Lori. So I do definitely look forward in working with you both. In addition to that, I want to also introduce myself, as I'm going to be helping with Region 12 for this next fiscal year, and I'm very excited to build a partnership, seeing as though that hasn't been established. So I definitely want to keep an open line of communication and build a partnership, essentially. So any concerns that this neighborhood council has, like working together and making sure that I bring that back to the table. So I will be attending your monthly meetings. And I also wanted to add that what Melanie added, that the elections were held. We look forward to having the retreat July 18th. And then also I think another announcement that's important is that their co-chairs were voted on, and that was Liz, I hope I'm not butchering her last name, Anston and Jack Hemfrugo. We also did discuss areas of the budgets that need focus. There is recommendations that were brought out. I'm gonna email that to the board. If there's any other recommendations that needs to be added, don't hesitate to add them. I'm not sure whether or not I should make the Google Doc give access to everyone to edit it, or if you guys just wanna send it their recommendations. I think that's the report that I have. And then I'm also going to be sending my email address. That's probably the best way to get in contact with me. And also, if you have any questions, you can feel free to ask now. I know we are in a time crunch here, but I'm also willing to get back at you via email.
Thank you. You can go ahead and send your contact information to me. I'll get it to our board. And I too would like to echo a thank you to Melanie for the years that she has represented us as a budget advocate. She can take a little breather now. And we look forward to working with you, Clarissa. Thank you.
Thank you.
I see a hand raised for Melanie. Is that from previous?
No, I want to talk.
Okay.
Yeah, Clarissa, I think what would be best is if we have your email and you send the email out and have everybody reply to suggestions rather than having a Google Doc that has everybody punching into it. It probably is easier to keep it clean for you to do it that way. Does that sound reasonable?
That's reasonable. Thank you for
Okay.
that suggestion.
Yeah, so, and thank you. And like I said, like I told Liz, she called me and everything, and I'm here to help. I'm even gonna help write some of the papers and everything this year still. So I'm still gonna be active, even though I'm not a budget advocate. So just reach out for whatever you need.
And we also have a hand from Gwen. Go ahead.
Hi, Clarissa. From what I understand with the budget advocacy, you usually focus on a particular aspect of the budget. I was wondering what your focuses were going to be, and Melanie and Lori, if you guys were also going to focus on anything in particular.
I can definitely send you some of the concerns that I have detailed on a document, but for right now, something that I know that we're definitely want to see is the budget. There is conversations that the budget may be cut, and so we're definitely advocating that not be the issue. That it's so that's definitely one of the things that it's on top of the list that I want to express.
Melanie, did you want to respond?
Basically, what happens, Gwen, is the budget advocates all focus on everything in the budget, but each budget advocate gets assigned different areas to meet with, usually what your interests are, to assign to do white paper for. Things may be changing this year, though. They've talked about changes, the way they're going to do things and how they're going to do the white paper, and I don't know what those are yet. And I'm sure Clarissa will have those when they have their retreat and everything and figure it out. But there's been discussion that they may do things a different way this year. But for me personally, I'm probably going to help with where my interests are this year, and that's public safety with the emergency management team with the funding for all of that. Liz reached out to me and asked me if I'd still be willing to chime in on that. And so that's where my focus is probably going to be.
And for me, I'm a brand new budget rep, so I'm just learning. So I don't have any special projects just yet, but I welcome the board to go ahead and email me and tell me if you have a particular issue you'd like to be focused on, because I'm here representing our board, not representing Lori. And let me see if I don't see any more hands raised, so we can move on. Ray?
Okay. Do we have anything on the attendee side by any chance?
No.
Okay. So let's go on to item number 4, public responders report. I actually saw Dan Brown's name there, so
okay, let me
get Senior Lead Officer Brown to.
Dan, you can go ahead and talk. And Cheryl, can you pull up the report Ray sent this morning?
Yeah, it's going to take me a minute though. I'll get it as I can.
While Cheryl's pulling that up, I'll just begin by just saying hello to everybody, and I will keep it very brief tonight because I know your schedule's packed and doing everything on Zoom is challenging to say the least as far as time goes. It'll be easy to keep short because this last June was very, 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 very much like the previous June, more so than I've ever seen as far as the crime numbers are concerned. We literally had the exact same number of crimes in June 2020 as compared to June of last year. That goes for the basic car area that I work, as well as the specific boundaries of the Northwest Neighborhood Council. So within Northwest area, there were 35 Part 1 crimes, both this year and last year. Same goes for my basic car area. There were 63 Part 1 crimes this year versus last year in June. There were a few differences. We had a few less robberies and a few less thefts this year, but those were offset by increases in burglaries from vehicles and thefts of vehicles. And it's similar within the boundaries of the Northwest San Pedro Neighborhood Council. We had a drop in thefts, a drop in aggravated assaults, but an increase in burglary from motor vehicles and from and regular burglaries as well. This was kind of disappointing to me because at the end of May, I made a pretty big arrest of 2 individuals who were involved in multiple thefts from vehicles and homes. And that was right at the end of May, and they've been in custody this entire time. And they were the ones that were constantly targeting the area towards the bottom right half of the map page, that area that's very densely hit with crime dots. Yeah, if you go up, Cheryl, just, yeah, the bottom right-hand corner of that little map between Gaffey and Pacific, between 7th and 10th Street, they were hitting there almost daily. And of course, not all crime gets reported, but there's, dozens of crimes over the months that were probably attributable to them. But they're in custody, and still we're seeing problems in that same area. So I don't know what to tell you guys there. The only other update I wanted to give you guys was on the copper wire thefts that occurred at least 3 times, 2 on Capitol and 1 on Westmont. Last week, that individual went to court, and as a part of his plea agreement, he was convicted of 1 of those, as well as a domestic violence charge that was completely unrelated. And all the other charges were dismissed. But because of the domestic violence charge and the 1 other conviction, he was sent to prison for 2 years and 8 months. 2 years for the domestic violence thing, and then 8 additional months for the grand theft of the copper materials. So that's the little update that I know was a crime of interest for you guys. I don't have anything else to speak of tonight unless you guys have questions.
Okay.
We do have one hand, Gwen, go ahead.
Hello, sir. Well, if I recall, you weren't around for the last meeting, but this is going back to April. There were 2 fires on the near the rail spur around Target. I was wondering if you could touch on what that was about, as well as this is outside our area, but it would be nice to know more about that arson that occurred at Angels Gate as well, with the fireworks and your efforts on that.
Just to clarify, are you talking about the fire that was maybe last Friday?
Angels Gate, pretty
I
much.
don't remember a fire at Angels Gate per se. I know there was a fire just west of the city limits, right on the border. Just
No, it
north
was
of
a grass
26th.
fire on the hill below the Korean Friendship Bell.
Correct.
I don't know of any fire over
Just
by
like
the
3
Korean
weeks
Friendship
ago.
Bell. Okay, I don't know about anything about that one. Last week there was a fire, like a grass fire, by Wanderer, west of kind of like Grenadier, Wanderer. It's like close to the Korean Bell, kind of, but much farther west on the county border. I don't know of any other fire.
And the 2 that I'm mentioning, I actually was a witness to them. I was at the Target parking lot, and right across the street at that greenway, the green belt. There was 1 fire, I believe it was April 6th, and then another one about a week later in that same area. So I was wondering if...
yeah, those I'll have to look up. I don't know what you're talking about off the top of my head. April 6th, you say? Let me write this down and I'll look into it for you. And I don't know what those were about. I do remember, now that you say that, I do remember one along the railroad tracks along there on Gaffey, probably right where you're talking about. Yeah, across from Target. I don't know what the cause of that one was, but I do remember there were some palm trees that were burned. I don't know what the cause was though, but I'll look into it.
And then it occurred apparently a second time about a week later.
Yeah, I don't know what it was, but I'll look into it for you.
Can I make a comment real quick? I can't type in the Q&A thing.
You can raise your hand, Rock.
All right, there we go.
Go ahead.
Officer Brown, I just want to thank you for all you and the police force do for us. And I just want you to know this board member strongly supports LAPD.
Thank you, Rock. I appreciate that. Thanks for saying so.
Melanie, you had your hand up?
Yeah. Hi, Dan.
Hey, Melanie.
Yeah, the place that Gwen's talking about is the place where the palm trees are that keep getting set fire across from Target. And there was 2 fires within a week of each other. And then there was another fire here this last week. So for some reason, somebody has got some desire to burn down all the palm trees over on the side there by the smog shop and all of that, and by the railroad tracks. And it'd be great if we could finger who it is that's doing it, because they're a pyro, obviously, whoever is doing it.
Yeah, about a month ago, I would say maybe a month and a half ago, on the other side of the freeway, close to our police station, that hillside north of the police station was set on fire also.
That was set on fire also, yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to prove who did that stuff. I
Yeah.
don't investigate arson crimes. I heard word on the street of who that might have been. I don't know if it would have been the same person that's doing the other palm trees on the Target side of Gaffey over there. But it very well could be that individual frequents those same areas. He's a local homeless person.
Yeah.
It was other homeless people that told me this individual had done it, but I have no proof of it. So it's hard for us to investigate that.
The other thing I wanted to bring up is we've been having a severe problem in the Taper area over at the park with this very violent, very physical guy with the children and the adults, the one with the suitcase that I keep telling you about.
Yeah.
Well, he's been back almost every night this week, and we've had to call the cops almost every night to have him removed from the park. So it's been an ongoing ordeal with him. And so I don't know what we're going to be able to do. And they keep telling him he's got to leave. He argues, they escort him out by a frog march, and then he's gone.
Yeah, and that's all you're probably going to be able to do with him is if he's staying in the park after hours. I mean, you can call. And,
That's what he's doing
the
is
officers
after the
can
hours
come.
in the park. That's when I've been
Yeah.
calling. I go for a walk and there he is laying on the slide or over, and he broke both the bathroom doors of the bathroom now.
Did we get any video of him breaking it, or did they
No,
just
I
show it
actually
broken?
witnessed him pull it open when he went in, and he was doing something to it. But obviously, they're demagging it is what they're doing. They hold something up to the top of it, and they've learned how to demag the lock.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, so that's something we probably should talk off chat here and try and figure out how we can approach this, to get it fixed. Because even during the day when he's in there, he's harmful to families and kids that play in that park too.
Looks like Dan muted himself.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. Okay. Dan, any last words here? If you can hear.
I have a question.
Okay, I'm sorry, Armando, I didn't see your hand raised. Go ahead.
I've been waiting. I wanted to get a message to Officer Brown to see if any officers that have over at Harbor Division been affected by the COVID-19.
I think we've lost Dan.
Here I am. I think
there
I'm
you
here
go.
now.
Okay.
I didn't try to mute myself. I didn't know I had a mute button. I didn't see it earlier. Now I found it. Sorry about that. But yeah, there's been at least 10 officers at Harbor Division that have been tested.
Are the families doing okay?
Sorry, I can't hear you guys anymore. I don't know what happened to
Are
my
the
volume.
families doing okay?
Yeah, everybody at Harbor Division has been okay up to this point, as far as I know. I'm sure you guys saw in the news, though, that one of our detention officers that worked the 77th jail, detention officer that I have interacted with, I worked many times. She did die, and she was relatively young with no previous health conditions. I think she was 39. So very sad.
Our condolences. If there's anything we can do to help, let us know, please.
I appreciate that, Armando. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anything from the attendees?
No, Ray, but I tried something and I'd like to see if the attendees now have the ability to raise their hand.
I don't see a raise hand button. What I got was the host would like to unmute you, and I've got once I spoke the first time, I have the mute button that I can control.
Right.
But just to answer Gwendolyn's question, since it came up before about the fire in Angels Gate Park, that was about 3 weeks ago. There were probably about 10 fire trucks at least, probably 15 or 20 LAPD units at least. And the fire was set by people shooting off illegal fireworks. And it smoked out the whole area. It spread from below Angels Gate Park almost up into the buildings. It came across Leavenworth Drive, and that's where they ended up finally containing it. It took about an hour to contain. And that's the story on that fire. Thanks.
Okay, if there's anybody else from an attendee that wants to speak, please type your name in the Q&A with the word stack. I do not see anyone there.
All right. Dan, thank you very much for being here, and thanks for all the work you guys do. It's really appreciated.
Absolutely, Ray. You're welcome. Thank you, guys, and good night. I'll be signing off.
Okay, take care. All right. CPAB. Melanie, do you have anything?
Yeah, Cheryl should have it to bring it up. There we
Okay.
go. So 618 was the last CPAB meeting, and the captain said the harbor area is number 2 in crime reduction in LA area. So that's good to see. That violent crime was down 21% due to the increase in gang unit. Gang activity fuels violent crime. GTAs are due to keys being left in cars, and daytime burglaries of unoccupied residencies up 7% from teens not being in school. Prevention to solve the crimes is use of cameras, ring security cameras, neighborhood watch groups. Neighborhood watch can be effective if your neighbors watch your home while you're away. Everyone looking out for each other. You can always do a vacation request from Harbor Division if nobody's going to be at your home, and you can get a drive-by for extra patrols for an extended period of time if you aren't going to be home. LAPD is handing out car clubs, 60 handed out so far, and they're getting more to hand out. During the downtown LA protests, LA Harbor Division SLO workers worked 12-hour shifts during this time. The Harbor Jail had 200 people in our jail during that time for arrests. San Pedro only had 1 looting incident, and that was at First and Gaffey. All suspects were arrested and all merchandise was recovered. Scroll up, Cheryl. CD15, to increase spot cleanups at the post office, COVID-19 has been limiting the amount of contact and sanitation with homeless. Bridge housing to open July 7th, 2020. There are concerns about security for the Bridge home now with the budget cuts. The security for the Bridge home, whoops, too far. There. The security for the Bridge home was based on overtime for LAPD, and that has been cut with the budget cuts to LAPD. Concerns about public safety and cutout of patrols was brought up by the captain. Harbor Division operates on a short staff of patrols as it is, and concerned about how that would be affected. The captain stated that patrols would be the last thing that he would allow to be cut. Overtime special programs unknown at Bridge home, overtime would be funded for security. The possibility of a patrol car dedicated to Bridge home might be a possibility. County shelter security is an agreement with Janice Hahn's office. The county is paying for the overtime. LA School Police, LAPD forced budget cuts, and LA Sheriff budget cuts. If school police eliminated or cut, it would be a hardship and logistical nightmare for student safety. This was stated by the Harbor Division captain at CPAB. And then I wrote here, we know that the school board voted for big cuts to LAUSD security, which did happen. LAPD retrieved in harbor communities 100 pounds of fireworks on June 17th and 500 pounds on the 16th. They were confiscated. They were working on search warrants and seizing more from known sellers. As you know, the war zone on July 4th, there was still a lot out there. And that's it. And the next CPAB meeting is this Thursday at 6 o'clock.
All right, thank you for that.
Any questions?
I do not see any raised hands on board. If any attendees have any questions, please type your name in the Q&A. I don't see any names at this point.
Okay.
Okay, can we get back to the agenda, please?
Yep. There it is. It's on there.
There it is. That's what I get for blinking. Okay, now we have our presentations. We have a representative from 7-Eleven, Aiden Madrid. And is Aiden there where we can?
He is, and I am moving him to a panelist right now. Okay.
Actually, Lori, you need to move him to Ray needs to move him to a co-host in order to show the slides.
We have the slides.
You have them. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Isn't this it that Cheryl has on the screen?
Yeah, but it's easier for him to go through them from his perspective, so he can. It's up to you. It'd be a lot easier if he can control them.
Yeah, thank you. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Can I share my screen?
We'd have to remove Cheryl from sharing a screen. So hold on.
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out where we changed who's sharing screen.
Just
I believe
make
if
a
you make him
co-host.
a co-host, he can then.
Add him
Okay.
as co-host.
Okay, Ray, you need to do that.
Okay. You are now a co-host,
Right.
and you should have the ability to share the screen, Peter.
Okay. Can you guys
There
see
you
my
go.
screen now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me tonight and for the opportunity to speak and to share our project. My name is Don Madrid. I am with a company called ASI Development, and we represent 7-Eleven. The project, the subject property is on the southwest corner of Gaffey Street and West Capitol Drive. And we are proposing to demolish the existing 7-Eleven store that's there now and to replace it with a new store and to add a fueling canopy with 4 pump items. A little background here. We filed a CUP application on January 15th along with a CPIO application. And then shortly thereafter, we attended our first planning and land use committee meeting on February 19th, and that one wasn't in person. And then most recently, we attended our second planning and land use committee on June 24th. This here is an aerial view of the subject property. This here is Gaffey Street, and this here is Capitol Drive, and over here is where we have the Target. This here is the existing 7-Eleven store. And as you can see, we have this whole back area of the property that is currently underutilized. And then this here is the DMV. Here we have our proposed site plan. As you can see, the new store will be located towards the street corner. This is something that the city's CPIO requires. They require this type of a layout versus a traditional layout where the building would be normally located towards the rear of the property, and the fueling canopy and the pumps would be normally located more towards the street corner. This red dashed line here is the foreseeable street dedication. So we're anticipating that the Public Works Department is going to require a 7-foot street dedication along Capitol and a 5-foot street dedication along North Gaffey Street. This is currently the curb face within the public right-of-way. And this here is these are the parking stalls that would be in front of the store, and then the parking stalls to the side of the store. This here is a bike rack, and then this here is the proposed tanker path, which was discussed at the last land use committee meeting. Here we have an illustration, a colored illustration of the proposed architecture of the building. One of the things that we added or changed since our meeting on the 24th was to add additional transparent glazing or glass on this east elevation, which faces Gaffey Street. And we did that to satisfy one of the requirements of the CPIO. This was just completed today by the architect, and I wanted to add that to the slide deck, although the Land Use Committee hasn't seen the additional glass yet. Here we have a 3D rendering of the proposed store and the fueling canopy. And again, we have the glass facing Gaffey Street. We have a buried roof line over the storefront entrance, an aluminum awning in a dark bronze color. We have short little pergolas over these tiled arched areas. The base of the building is going to have stonework, as well as the entrance being flanked with the similar type of stonework. And the support columns for the building canopy will have stonework as well. This here shows our roof plan. Not too exciting, but there's our roof plan. And then here are some details of the proposed signage. Here is the proposed monument sign and fuel pricing that would be at the street corner. And then here is our proposed landscape plan, which is better illustrated on the 3D view of the proposed project. The CPIO, as I mentioned earlier, they require a reverse layout, again, where the building's located at the street corner versus being located at the back. And I believe the land use committee may have been split on the preferred layout for this project. So we engaged in a discussion regarding that. And I shared with the group that I had several discussions with the CPIO planner and that group within the planning department regarding our preference for a traditional layout over a reverse layout, which is currently what's being proposed. And they indicated to me under no uncertain terms that the CPIO requires a reverse layout. So we conceded to that requirement, and we moved forward with the current design and are still working on some of the design issues that we still have to comply with. One of which includes a street-facing entrance. We added the glass. However, the CPIO also requires a street-facing entrance, which we're struggling with because there's the entrance that faces the pumps, and we need that storefront to face the gas pumps for the obvious reason that customers come in, they park, they get gas, and their natural inclination would be to walk to the store and enter the storefront. So to have a street entrance would require that we have two entrances versus one, which historically, it's been our experience, it makes it difficult for the store manager to manage who's coming and going to the store. So we're trying to get past this requirement with the city, and we're not quite sure how that's going to play out, but it's an outstanding item. The 25% transparent windows along Gaffey, I believe we've addressed that in the most recent iteration of that east elevation. And lastly, the CPIO limits signage to those elevations of the building facing a street. So we can have signage facing Gaffey, we can have signage facing Capitol. However, if we desire to have signage over the storefront, we need a approval of a CPIO exception, which goes to the area planning commission versus the zoning administrator. So that's another detail that we're trying to work through with city planning. At our June 24th planning and land use committee meeting, there was a lot of discussion, and what I'm trying to do here is to bulletize the action items that I believe came out of that meeting. One of those items was to look at the feasibility of rerouting the fuel tanker path to avoid Capitol. There were some concerns with having the fuel tankers traverse on Capitol, making its way to the subject property. So we're looking at how we may be able to reroute the tanker to avoid Capitol Drive. I believe that the Land Use Committee would like to see a traffic study to evaluate the safest route for that tanker path and our options, and the possibility of adding an additional crosswalk at Gaffey and at Berrywood Avenue. And I have an exhibit that'll show that. I'd like to share that with this group, but to also obtain clarification, perhaps from Diana Nave regarding my understanding of what was requested at that land use committee. Thirdly, they like for us to identify the location of the existing underground natural gas lines for the existing natural gas pump that belongs to Southern California Edison, which is located 300 feet to the west. They also expressed some concerns that the railroad tracks to the east of the property is a through area for LPG gas. And they had some concerns with regards to, whether that's safe. Is that safe with the gas station? So we took that back as an action item to talk to Rancho LPG and get a better understanding of their safety protocols. Our presumption is that it's probably very heavily regulated, as are gas stations. Gas stations are very heavily regulated by the EPA, AQMD, and so forth.
Excuse me, Adon, you have about 15 seconds left on the presentation time.
Okay.
How much more did you need to present?
Maybe 5 minutes.
Ray, we're at just under 10 minutes. So
Yeah.
Should I go ahead and allow 5 minutes more?
Can you do it in less than 5?
Yes, yeah, I'll speed it up here. So so we have some action items that we're looking at. They asked for solar panels, so we're exploring the feasibility of solar panels. They asked us to look at possibly installing an EV charging station on site, which I'm discussing with 7-Eleven. And there was some interest on the board. I can't say there was a 100% consensus, but some of the board members asked that we look at possibly revisiting the home plate configuration versus the current layout. So this here is an aerial photograph of our subject property, as well as the Target store, the marine wholesale warehouse, and here's the SoCal natural gas pump that I mentioned earlier, and then here are the railroad tracks. So my understanding of the crosswalks that were requested is here, and another one here at Berrywood, because there's already one at Berrywood and there's already one crossing Gaffey, but I believe that it was Peter who asked for this. There would be a crosswalk here and a crosswalk there. So obviously those decisions will be made by the city's traffic division, and we can facilitate that by preparing a traffic study here. And then this here is just an aerial photograph of our subject property. And then this is a 0.33 mile ring that shows the two nearest gas stations. There's an Arco, and then there's a Chevron. I understand that Arco has a lot of traffic. They get a lot of customers at Arco. And then this is a 1 mile radius. And then you have 2 additional gas stations here. And then from what I understand, somebody mentioned that there might be one more gas station here, but I believe it's just outside that 1 mile radius. And that's all I have for you. I'm here to answer any questions that the board might have.
Okay.
If we can just real quick make sure, I know you were given a lot of questions beforehand, and so hopefully the questions that we get now, which we'll try to limit to about 10 minutes also, that we could, hopefully they're new questions that you'll be able to consider or have an answer to, and then we may have to take some of these questions back at the Planning and Land Use Committee. So
Ray, I can start with the board in order that they raise their hand. Do you want me to set the 2-minute timer for our board? Okay. First one to raise their hand is Gwen. Go ahead and unmute. Gwen? There she is.
Okay. All right. Hi, Adam.
Hi.
To your point about the design and challenge with the doors, there's a particular 7-Eleven in Culver City. It's on Braddock and Sepulveda that I was kind of impressed with the flow. It does have 2 entrances, one on a corner and another one towards the parking, which I would be, but you might want to take a look at that one. I think it lends itself to the design in this one.
All right.
Okay, is that it, Gwen?
That's about it, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Next, we have Melanie.
Hi, Ed. How are you?
Hi, good, thanks. How are you?
Good. So what I'm concerned about is I'm not understanding what was the original track of the fuel truck that was disputed.
Oh, I have it up here on my screen. Can you guys still see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So this shows the original proposal of the tanker path. So it would probably come from Western, travel eastbound on Capitol, and
Okay.
make a right turn into the property. And
All
then
right. So that's why, and now I have a better understanding, because I wasn't understanding the contention that it was going to just turn on Capitol and pull in. But that is a problem, because if they're driving, Western is very heavily Capitol is very heavily populated with residents all the way up it. And a tanker driving through a resident zone like that is unacceptable. That really needs to be addressed.
Okay.
And
yeah, we're looking at that.
The other thing is that one of the ongoing things running the neighborhood watch over here, because I live right here by 7-Eleven in the area, is that there is a problem with concern of 7-Eleven. There's a lot of problems with vagrants laying on the front of the store constantly and hanging out there. And so our request for this community is that 7-Eleven be more advocating about dealing with that situation, especially with there's going to be gas pumps and everything else there.
Okay.
Okay. I'm not able to raise my hand, so I'm going to just real quickly just say I really appreciate the presentation. I'm looking forward to having a new and fresh 7-Eleven. I like that the building's on the corner so that people can't go in and out so close to the intersection. And I see nothing wrong with this presentation, so I really appreciate it. Next, I have Dan Dixon. Go ahead and unmute. You have 2 minutes. Dan?
Hello?
Yep, there you go.
Good, thanks. Hi,
Hi, Dan.
It's certainly a handsome building compared to the existing facility. And I really understand your frustration about that second entrance. It's just got so many ramifications about security and managing the space and all that. If there is an alternate in Culver City or elsewhere that would be of use, that's certainly worth looking at. I think I'm concerned about the trucks entering from Capitol as well, but also what kind of studies are being done about the undergrounding of the tanks there. This is a notorious area, both in terms of existing pipelines, many fault lines, and the infamous high water table that exists in the area. Is that a big part of your environmental study?
Yes, yeah, we've ordered a soils report so that we have a better understanding of the water table levels and the soil conditions. So as we move forward with the entitlement process and we get into more of the engineering side of this development, all of those matters will be looked at very closely. All of the gas stations, whether it's a 7-Eleven or another competing company, have to obtain approval for their underground storage tanks through a county ran entity called Coupa. And I believe Coupa is managed by the LA County Fire Department, and it's a grouping of different agencies, including the EPA, AQMD, that have full review of the engineering behind the underground storage tanks and all the plumbing to deliver the fuel on site. So it's very highly regulated. So we'll have to engineer all that when we get to that point where we've locked in our site plan, everyone's happy with the current layout or the reverse layout. We'll enter that phase of the project planning and engineering. But yeah, the land use committee expressed or shared similar information on the 24th. They indicated that the water table is just below the surface and that there's a lot of lines, utility lines traversing, probably mostly within the public right of way, but maybe even on site. So all that will be looked at very closely when we get to that right point in the process.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, Sophia was next. Go ahead. You can, hold on. Wait, sorry. Go ahead and unmute.
Oh, hi. I just wanted to ask when construction would start, just because of the people who work there now. And like, I understand construction would like still provide jobs, but I'm thinking about the people that work there now. I wouldn't want them to lose their jobs during the crisis.
Sure. That's understandable. I can only speculate at this point when we may start construction, and I'll try to do the math in my head. We're probably 4 to 5 months from a hearing. The determination letter and the effectuation of the CUP is probably another 2 months after that. And then we have yet to initiate the engineering drawings for the Coupa permitting. And in LA County, that's about a year. So we could very well be 16 to 18 months away from starting construction on this project.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Next, John DeMeglio, you can unmute. Your 2 minutes starts now.
Hi. Very concerned on how this is actually going to benefit the neighborhood. Very concerned with problems that 7-Eleven has with homeless, not only here in San Pedro, but all over in front of their buildings. And it's been really just sad to see and hard to, I avoid going to 7-Eleven because of everybody hanging out there. I avoid getting Slurpees or anything like that because of how dirty it is. And I just don't, in a time where we are trying to eliminate fuel and more plug-ins, I don't see where this would fit in. And I don't see why we're pushing fuel, more fuel. And I don't think there's too much fuel in our area as is right now, all over in every corner of our area. So I just want to know how is this going to benefit this neighborhood? Thank you.
Did you want to respond to that?
Sure. I'd like to make an attempt. Well, for one, it's been our experience that the franchisees that are more involved with the community, more actively involved with dealing with whatever loitering or homeless issues they may have on their property, on private property, really determines the success that they're able to achieve in dealing with those types of issues. What we've also have learned is these older stores, sometimes when we come in and we redevelop the property, it injects new life and new vibrancy into not only the property, but the operator. You know, they have something new and now they're more willing, they're more motivated to take care of it. Another benefit to the community is that this building has been here for decades. And we're, 7-Eleven is now looking to spend, several $1 million to clean it up and to bring a new building with new landscaping, where now there's very little landscaping, and a fresh building with updated architecture, additional security cameras, additional lighting, up-to-date lighting, LED lighting. So we'll get the proper levels of illumination on the property here, which probably don't exist today, along with a more robust video surveillance camera system.
Thank you. Ray?
That was 10 minutes for the.
Okay, that's what I was going to bring to your attention. Do you want to allow some public comments and then just allow only 1 minute? Do you want to ask the board if they want to give this more time?
I have a couple questions.
Armando, your hand again was not raised, so I didn't.
An option to push the button. I've been raising my hand on screen for the beginning of time.
Armando, can you make you hit your question real quick so that we can take a couple of questions from the audience if there's some?
Yes, sir, I'll cut it down to one big question. Bringing in this fuel, propane, where do you plan to store it? What are your, and do you have a safety plan already set for that?
We're not looking to bring propane. This location will offer, you know, regular gasoline, all the different octanes along with diesel fuel, but no propane. And we're also exploring the possibility of adding an EV charging station at the request of the Land Use Committee. But there's no propane proposed here.
Thank you. I thought I saw that on one of your slides.
Oh, I apologize. There may have been a little confusion with that. We were asked to evaluate where the plumbing goes for the existing LPG gas pump, or the existing LPG pump, I should say, that belongs to Southern California Edison. That's approximately 300 feet to the west of our site.
All right, thank you, Ray.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If there are any board members who are unable to use the raise hand function, I can't see all of you on the screen if you're waving at me. So please send me a text, and so I know that you want to speak, because I want to give everybody opportunity. So Ray, what do you want to do now? Do you want to open up a certain amount of time?
Let's do maybe another 5 minutes for attendees.
Allowing
And if we can
1
give-
minute. Okay.
Maybe 1 minute, yeah.
Okay, so attendees, I already have 2 that have already asked to speak. So any other attendees, please type in the Q&A your name and the word stack, and I'll go in order. So I'll go as quickly as I can. First, I have Fran Siegel. Can you go ahead and unmute yourself?
Yes, I don't actually have anything to say. My question was answered, so thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. That's great. Next, I have Christina Smith.
My comment was just, I'm so happy to hear that you're considering an EV station there. I'm always looking around town for my EV stations when there a lot more electric cars are coming into town. So go for it.
Okay, great. This is going quickly. Next, I have Matt. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Cool. My statement's more for the board. As a board that hopes to be more sustainable and pushes it and all of its anything that it does on its packets. I don't see why the board would support the gas station. The building's fine. I don't agree with it being on the corner. I like where it is. I didn't see the whole presentation, so I missed out on why it's on the corner, but I think it'd be better at its original spot. And when I heard Christina speak about the EV chargers, I agree that should be used, and we should get away from gas. I mean, look at the moment we're at right now. It's my generation that's gonna get stuck with this. And it's either this board that steps up and says no more gas. And I mean, they already turned down Target when they wanted a gas station. So it's kind of a double standard when they approve right across the street a gas station. So, and we have a whole bunch of gas stations in San Pedro. You know, I respect 7-Eleven for wanting to put it, but I think it's time that we move forward and just do EV chargers and just have brand new buildings.
Okay, that's time. Can you wrap up your thought, Matt?
That's it. That's actually everything.
Oh, perfect timing. Great. Thank you so much for your comment. Okay, next I have Noel Gould. You can unmute yourself.
Great, thank you. And yeah, the design definitely looks a lot better than the one that's there now. However, my concerns have already been echoed. I don't think that it should be gasoline. I think it should be all EV chargers. And the fact that this is right across the street from Rancho LPG, which is by far one of the most potentially deadly hazards that San Pedro faces. If that were to go, there's a 3-mile blast radius. Having another gas station literally right next to it is a terrible idea. And then also Capitol is a super steep road that if you're thinking of having tankers come down Capitol, they also go right past an elementary school. So I don't think that's a good idea either. It would be heavily supported for all EV.
I appreciate it. I don't see any other names in here. However, I've seen Pete Burmeister attempting to unmute himself. So I'm going to go ahead and Pete, you can start now. Unmute yourself and you have 1 minute.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, my concern is number one, 7-Eleven and the neighborhood council and the city they haven't outreach enough to our community, how that fits into that. Okay, there should be more outreach before decisions are made. And I think we have a lot of kids in our neighborhood again, and my concern is safety. I like that building, but not in that place. I like the building right adjacent to the motor vehicle department, and there should be 2 entrances from Capitol into the parking lot. And the way that looks like, you only have 1 entrance and 1 exit. So that is not enough for that traffic there. And on top of that is we have a distributing center right there for the custom, and they're parking in the middle of the street.
Your time is up, Pete. Your time is up. Can you wrap up your last thought?
Yeah, and they're unloading there, and that's a very, very busy intersection. But I'm for business.
I'm sorry, Pete, your time is up. Thank you. And our last public comment would come from Pat Nave.
Good morning, or good afternoon, good evening. I'm for putting that building back in the corner like the baseball diamond. You know, there is not a single building or business all along Gaffey Street where the store is right up front on a corner, not Home Depot across the street, not Target down the way, not Chevron, not Arco, not the DMV, anywhere. It gives greater visibility and greater access if the store is back in the corner. I know the planning department is on their high horse about it, but I think we support it and help them if we can get it back in the corner.
Thank you, Pat. Ray, that wraps up public comment. I have 2 board members now raise their hand after we close board conference. So it's up to you.
Yeah, I'd like to say that if you have questions, can you please forward them? This isn't going to be your last time to be able to talk about it. So they can go to the Planning and Land Use Committee, submit your questions there. We're not asking for a decision today. So
Okay,
they can go to Planning and Land Use.
They've asked that any questions from anybody, the public, to go ahead and email our board, which is board@nwsanpedro.org. And those questions then will be forwarded to the Planning Committee and they can reply. Thank you, everybody. Is there a motion to take a vote on for this?
No, there is no.
Okay. Okay, great.
Okay. Dan, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate the presentation.
Thank you. Yeah, you're welcome. And I recognize that this is the beginning of our journey with you guys to work out all the details and iron out whatever wrinkles we may have here. So we're committed to continuing to work with this body as well as the Planning and Land Use Committee.
Great,
thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So we're down to the public comment.
I'm going to have a point of information if possible.
And who is this talking?
This is Noel.
Yeah, Noel.
I think there's lots and lots of people waiting for the planning section of the agenda, and given that with the technical difficulties and such that it's taking a long time, I'm wondering if it's possible, with of course the consent of the board, to move the planning items up so that we could do them sooner.
Well, I appreciate your concern, but we have our public comment, our consent, and then we'll go into committee reports. And I do believe they're the first one on top of our committee report. So
second one, yeah.
So we'll go ahead and
thanks.
Do it. Thank you for your thought.
And can attendees please keep their microphones on mute so we don't hear any background noise? Thank you.
So public comment. I'm going to ask that we keep public comment down to a minute. We usually try to do 2, but we're running over, and I want to get everyone, get us quicker to our other business at hand. So, so this is public comment for non-agenda items. Please.
Please type your name in the question so I can call on you. Okay, the first name I see is Patricia. I can't pronounce your last name. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, my name is Patricia Valladolid, and I just wanted to briefly introduce myself. I'm the newly appointed director to the One San Pedro organization with Century Housing. So my office is right on the corner of 6th and Pacific. I look forward to continuously participating in this meeting and the other neighborhood council meetings. I'll send an email with my contact to the board.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Ray, is public comment 1 minute or 2?
1 minute.
Okay. Let me see. Next I have Pete Burmeister. Go ahead, your 1 minute starting now.
I'm in mood. Hold on.
Your time is going, Pete.
Yeah, but I have to. Jesus Christ. So the only thing what I don't like, we have a lot of homeless people there, and that franchise employed a lot of homeless people there for food, free food, and we have to take care of that. We don't like that.
Okay, thank you.
We have some time left.
You have 20 seconds. Are you speaking on a non-agenda item?
No, that's okay. That's good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't see anybody else. Just want to confirm that there's nobody else attendees that want to speak on a non-agenda item. Ray, I do not see any other names in the Q&A.
Terrific. Thank you. All right, well, moving down to the next item, consent calendar. We have 2 items on our consent calendar, the approval of the June minutes, and we're going to accept the resignations of Christian Guzman and Monica Brandenburg. Any objection to?
Need a second? A second to the motion?
Who's the first?
I want to see if there's any one.
Well, there's no discussion on consent calendar.
I'm sorry, what was that? I was over talking.
I'm sorry, there's no discussion on consent calendar. That's why it's consent calendar.
Second the motion.
I need it first. Okay, I'm just making it up.
I'll first it. I'll move it.
Thank you, Melanie. And Dan is a second.
Okay, Dan's a second.
First and second.
Okay, all in favor, please, well.
Okay, Rock?
Board members, please unmute yourself for roll call vote.
Rock's away.
Okay, out. Thank you. Armando?
Yes.
Thank you. John Barbera?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Braun?
Yes.
John DeMeglio?
Sustain.
Diane?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Melanie?
Yes.
Sophia?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Great. Okay, so budget and finance, it appears, is up next.
Okay.
Melanie, go ahead.
Few real simple stuff. Do you have the budget and finance, Cheryl?
I'll get it. Just give me a minute. You want the minutes from the meeting?
No, just the MERs and the budget.
I am looking to see if it's on the website. I've got it.
It's all attached together. It's all a trail together. They're stitched.
Just open her budget.
I'm doing
Just open it. It's all stitched.
Stitched. Never heard that, stitched.
Yeah. There we go. Alrighty, so we're gonna prove these together. Here's the May MER, and go down, and it's got all the contributions that we made for the, oops,
Go back.
we're at the budget. I need the MER for May and June. So
This
is
June.
That's June.
May is above it. I can't put them all on the screen at once.
Yeah, just
okay.
May 1st. The first one is May. And so May, we had the distribution of the money that we gave to Meals on Wheels and Harbor Interfaith for the COVID money. and then the payment for the mailroom that we do every month. And then go down, Cheryl, go up. Next.
Well, which,
and then,
wait, okay, you're still on May?
And then, yeah, the printing and the Cabrillo Breach sponsorship. And so that left, go down. So,
This is June.
whoops. So that, and then June, we had the mailroom, and then the payment for the #2 newsletter, and then also payment for this newsletter. And then we had Epperhart Communications, and then Cabrillo went through finally. It was outstanding. And so what this shows is what we have is up at the, go back to the top of June. Up. Okay, there we go. So what this does is this closes out our fiscal year for 2019-20. And so we have available $5,876.29 that will be rolling over into our funds for this fiscal year. That will be our rollover amount. That will not show up until the accountants for the city audit our account, and then we'll have to do a new budget to include this money in our budget again, and that will be about August, first part of September, when we'll see this money back. So this is out of committee, so any discussion? Okay, so that being said, roll call vote. Rock?
Yes.
Armando?
Yes.
John? Bavera?
Yes.
Braun?
Yes.
John DeMiglio?
Yeah, you went too fast. I have a comment.
Oh, you do? You didn't raise your hand.
In the middle
I
of
know
a
I
vote.
couldn't find it on the on my phone. But are these people giving us back money that we gave to them? Some of them, like
No.
like Cabrillo Beach for the fireworks and all
We'll
that.
talk about that on another motion. Okay?
Well, it's part of this budget plan, right?
Right, but we'll talk about it on, there's a motion for this on the agenda.
Okay, I'm gonna vote no then.
Dan? Dan Dixon?
Muted.
Yes. Sorry.
Your vote, yes?
Yes.
Cynthia absent. Lori?
Yes.
Melanie, yes. And Chris?
Yes.
Okay. Next, we're on the budget. Go down.
Hang on, I'm still writing vote counts.
And here's the budget where we just close out the year. And $5,876.29, a rollover amount. And that closes out the year for 2019-20. So this is out of committee. Any discussion?
I don't see any board members, but Matt DeMeglio has raised his hand.
Okay, Matt? Matt?
You should be able to unmute yourself.
Unmute yourself, Matt. Hello?
Are you saying he can't unmute himself?
I don't know why. Hold on. Where did he go? I don't even see him on here anymore.
He's over on attendees down at the bottom.
At the bottom.
He mentioned
Oh.
he changed computers or something.
And he's gone.
Cool. He's up on top.
I'm able to talk now.
There you go.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, Matt.
No, it's fine. No, I left. I should have. I knew it was gonna be a problem. But my question was with the fires too, but you guys didn't talk about it later.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
it's on. It's coming up, Matt, and we can discuss it.
But I actually had done that comment before this, so just letting you know.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm doing the best I can to watch this.
So budget. So any more discussion? So call for the vote. Rock,
Yes.
Armando,
Yes.
John Barbera,
Yes.
Braun,
Yes.
John DeMeglio,
Yes.
Dan Dixon,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Melanie, yes, and Chris.
Yes.
Okay, now the fireworks. What's coming up with the fireworks is I got notification from Joe's office and from the Carrillo Beach fireworks that they are postponing the fireworks until Labor Day. And there will be a big celebration Labor Day instead. And they're using all the fireworks that they got for Cabrillo Yacht Club for then. So what we're looking at is a motion to support the postponement of the Carrillo Beach fireworks, Boosters fireworks for Labor Day.
Okay,
So-
so let's go,
Is this also from committee?
Yes.
Thank you.
yes, okay, so we did have two people who wanted to comment. So first we would go to the board. So first would be John DeMeglio.
John?
I didn't put my hand up for this one, but
You earlier you said you wanted to speak about the.
I earlier spoke on it, but yeah, I just think that money needs to be returned. Thank you.
The only problem is for the money, what happens if they don't use it? And this will be something we'll address in and if it happens. But this is where it becomes kind of hairy, because if you ask for the money back, it won't come back to us. They won't let us have it back. It will go to general fund for the city. It won't come back to our neighborhood council. We don't ever see it again. I did an inquiry about it and that's what I was told.
Okay, thanks, Melanie.
Alrighty.
My board comment is that we gave the money to the Cabrillo Boosters in good intentions to have a fireworks show. Sadly, because of the pandemic, we weren't able to do that. So I say we just leave it like it is for the September. And if they don't happen, then we'll deal with it. But that's how I see it. Let me see. I don't see any other board members raising their hand. Is there? Okay. So we know that Matthew wanted to speak on this.
Yeah, Matt does.
Go ahead, Matt.
I want to speak to it too.
Okay, Pete, I'll pick you, unmute you after Matt.
Oh, my thing is just, what if it doesn't happen on Labor Day? And I know you guys would say we'd figure it out after, but I mean, we could be using that money right now. I know it's, you said, it's a pain in the butt to get it, the refund back, but
We can't get it back. We don't get it back, Matt.
but general fund is fine because I mean, taxpayer dollars either way. So that's just my opinion. Thank you. That's the end of my.
Okay, yeah, no matter when it happens, we don't get the money back. Before we go to Pete, I see a board member with their hand up. Braun, go ahead.
Yeah, just real quick, if they do have it in September, does that fall outside of this year's budget date?
Melanie, you're muted.
Yes, it does for last year's money to be spent. So that's why we're doing a vote now to honor the postponement to carry the money.
Understood. Is that going to have any?
Otherwise, they
Well,
have to give it to general fund.
Right. Is that going to have any effect on our budget next year? Has
No,
anybody discussed that?
nothing. It doesn't affect this budget at all.
Okay, so it'll just roll over.
Yep, just rolls over.
That's it.
It has to be a general acknowledgement from the board.
Good question. Okay, let's go ahead. Pete, go ahead. You have 1 minute.
Okay, let me unmute myself here. Okay, fireworks in the city of LA is illegal. Okay, and all the fire department had a big sign in front of it. And here we donating fireworks for Cabrillo Beach. The money is taxpayers' money. Okay, if that goes back to the city, it's good for a good cause. The city know not much how to spend it, but to spend it anyhow. So but fireworks are illegal. So we should fight it. We fought it for years, and we have now peace in our area. Okay, so we need the money for outreach, for the 7-Eleven, to let the people know what's going on to that corner. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Pete. Again, no matter what happens, that money won't come back to us. That won't affect our budget whatsoever. Next, I have public comment from Alan Franz. Go ahead and unmute.
Okay, I believe I'm unmuted.
Yes.
Yeah, on this, I just wonder whether it would be a good idea not to be so specific on Labor Day, to leave the money in the hands of the boosters. But given the pandemic, 6 weeks off is probably not enough time to allow for the pandemic to disappear. And it may not be safe to hold a major public event that soon. If it were unspecified in terms of the date, it could be perhaps held until such time as it's safer. That's it.
You're right, Alan, but we don't have a choice on the matter. The boosters announced Labor Day would be the possible date. After that, we don't have the authority to extend it.
Alan, and they are looking at a different way of doing this. From what I understand, when I talked to Gary, he said even if they aren't able to everybody meet in public, they're looking at where people could like view it from from all views, like from by the Iowa or something, where everybody could be like from a far distance and see it from different points.
Thank you, Melanie.
Let me look. I do not see any other public comments. So I think that's the end of discussion, I guess.
Okay, so call for the vote. Rock?
Yes.
Armando?
Absolutely.
John Barbara?
Yes.
Ron?
Yes.
John DeMeglio?
No.
Dan? Dan?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes. Sorry, yes.
Okay. Lori?
Yes.
Melanie, yes. And Chris?
Yes.
Okay, and that's it. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, thank you, Melanie. Now let's move on to the next agenda item, which will be planning and land use. Diana, it's on you.
Thank you. We've got a couple of items under planning and land use. The first is a motion that has to do with the PAIP. Cheryl, can you put that one up?
Yep. I just was waiting for you to tell me which one it was.
What you have for your consideration is a motion requesting that the port consider funding the consultant, the traffic consultant now, rather than waiting for the entire public access improvement plan to be approved. This council spent a great deal of time working on recommendations for the port's public access improvement projects. Just as the port was ready to send these recommendations to the Board of Harbor Commissioners, COVID struck and they didn't send them. More recently, the general manager of the port announced that they are going to hold off on those recommendations due to the uncertainty around port revenue, which in April was down 30% over the prior year. There was one recommendation that all three neighborhood councils and the chamber had agreed on, and that was to use a portion of the funds, approximately $1 million, to create a waterfront development connectivity plan. This plan is key to shaping everything else on the waterfront. And for that reason, we're recommending that a letter be sent to the port, or this resolution be sent to the port, requesting them to consider moving forward with the waterfront development connectivity plan consultant now, rather than waiting for the rest of the projects to be implemented. So that's the resolution before you.
Okay, are there any board questions? I don't see any hands raised. If there's any attendee who wants to speak in the public, please type your name in the Q&A.
Is this a motion out of committee?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
There are no hands and no names, so go ahead.
I'll just comment that a similar motion is going, I don't know if it's the same, but a similar motion for supporting the same thing is going before the Chamber Economic Development Committee tomorrow morning, and I'll be sending this to the other two neighborhood councils for their consideration as well, if it's approved tonight.
Okay.
All right.
Rock,
Yes.
Armando,
Yes.
John Barbera,
Yes.
Mary Chan, Mary.
Mary, you need to unmute yourself.
Yes.
Thank you. Braun,
Yes.
John DeMeglio,
No.
Dan,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Melanie,
Yes.
so
Yes.
Chris.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Okay, this next item deals primarily with the impact and interpretation of the state density bonus. This is a law. This is a law under which developers can get certain incentives and waivers in exchange for inclusion of a certain number of income restricted units. You may recall that we opposed this law before it passed because we knew it would be disruptive to our community plan. In November of last year, we reviewed plans to construct a 4-story, 45-foot tall apartment building on the west side of Pacific Avenue between 13th and 14th Street, excluding the auto repair shop on the corner. The project would have 102 apartments, 12 of which would be restricted to very low income individuals or families. The developer used the state density bonus ordinance to request several variances. After some discussion, both Central and Northwest decided to support this project with some requested changes. In part, we were pleased that they were not asking for an exemption to parking requirements. We also felt that this part of Pacific was a riskier area to develop than some of the other projects we had reviewed. In January, the zoning administrator held a public hearing. A number of community members spoke, most of whom were opposed to the project. In April, it was also heard by the City Planning Commission when it resumed its meetings electronically. And at that time, there were a couple of speakers in favor and several who opposed it. The CPC unanimously approved the project. A community group then filed an appeal contending that a number of city requirements and guidelines were not correctly applied. That appeal will go to the City Council. Coastal Neighborhood Council supported the appeal and asked Central and Northwest to do likewise. Central subsequently voted to support the appeal. After hearing from both the appellants and the developer, the Planning Committee voted 6-1 for a resolution, which I think is the one you have before you now, yes, supporting the appeal, and a separate letter to be sent to the councilman in the planning department. It's that resolution and letter that you have before you tonight. Subsequent to the planning meeting, the developer submitted a written response to the appellant's main points, and the appellants then submitted a written response to that. Those documents were posted for your review with the agenda on tonight's meeting. The resolution before you notes the appellant's contention that the development does not conform to many provisions of the local community plan, the community plan implementation ordinance, the Pacific Corridor redevelopment plan, the LA Municipal Code density bonus waivers and permissions, and the California Environmental Quality Act. It also notes that it has been our custom and practice to support other neighborhood councils. It states that Northwest supports the appeal and joins with Central and Coastal San Pedro neighborhood councils in doing so, and concludes with the statement that Northwest supports proper development at this location that is consistent with the various guiding documents. Can you put the letter up on the screen now? So there's also a letter. The letter would go to Joe and it would go to the planning department, it's a more general statement and specifically addresses conformity with the community plan and the Pacific Corridor redevelopment plan. It raises some concerns that were not contained in the appeal about how the traffic impacts were calculated. It also deals with the impact of the state density bonus on our community and the disruptions to our community plans, and concludes with the statement that we believe the city's review should require the highest level of consistency possible with our community's efforts to provide good planning. Otherwise, our efforts are meaningless. So both the resolution and the letter are now before you for your consideration.
Are they out of committee?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to call on people in order. Oh, look, I was first. Thank you, Diana, for the work that you're doing on this. I'm really getting tired of us having a community plan and continually there's exceptions that various builders are trying to, and developers trying to avoid what our plan that we established. So this needs to stop, and I appreciate all the support that you've gained throughout the community. So first hand that I saw is Gwen Henry. Go ahead and unmute. You have 2 minutes.
Hi, I'm unable to vote on this, but I wanted to definitely compliment all parties on everything that they've been working on regarding this. And I would definitely be voting for it if possible. But so really honestly, they have not made any changes to the size and the scope of this building then?
That's my understanding, although the developer's representative is with us. Can you make sure, Lori, that Jonathan Lohner is upgraded to a panelist?
I don't see him on here.
Oh.
He's there. I think we should listen to the developer before we comment.
This is just a, this is.
Oh, okay, here's down on the bottom. Okay, sorry. Let me go.
Question asked that I'm asking if you.
Okay, there, he's done.
So the question was whether or not there'd been any changes. Re-ask your question, Gwen.
Gwen, unmute yourself and re-ask your question, please.
So there have been no changes or alterations to the size and scope of this project. And
that's the question. No, I'm assuming that's correct, Jonathan?
That is correct. Since the City Planning Commission's approval, there have been no changes to the size or scope of the project.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next hand up is Dan. Go ahead and unmute yourself. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I have always felt that it's very important to support our fellow neighborhood councils when issues like this come up. I hate getting ahead of them on something like this. So when I hear that Central has asked for this, all I can say is I would support that. Diana, can you tell me, or the gentleman there, how many of these units involve the density bonus, if any?
So the density bonus applies to the entire property. So in exchange for the density of 102 units, 12 of those units are restricted to very low income rates.
Jonathan, correct me if I'm wrong, the base, if you were not to have applied for the 35% increase, how many units would you have been able to build?
If you give me 2 seconds, I will make sure that I have that information correct.
Yeah. Why don't you go ahead with the next comment?
Okay. The next comment, Armando, is that you raising your hand?
No, I'm just ready to vote.
Oh, okay. Okay. Then next, thank you.
I apologize. I do have an answer for you.
Okay, go ahead.
So the base density for the site is 79 units. With the density bonus, it could go up to 107 units.
To 107, and you're proposing 102, is that correct?
Correct. You are correct.
Okay, so I'm just doing my simple-minded math. Okay.
Dan,
You are in
sorry,
fact.
your time's kind of up.
Okay, I'm done.
Unless you can wrap it up real quick.
No, just watching the numbers on this whole for extra low-income housing and making sure it really is meaningful rather than simply adding more units at market rate for a relatively small number of very low income units. This seems to pencil out okay, but that's fine.
Yeah,
I
okay.
support the motion.
Thank you. Good points. Okay, next, John DeMeglio, go ahead, unmute. You have 2 minutes.
Yeah, I want to know is how many 102 units plus how much parking per unit, and I need to know that. And also, there's too many apartment buildings being built in San Pedro as it is right now, and so I just want to put that in there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, I have.
Jonathan, give him the
He has a
number.
question.
Oh, okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sure. The
Parking.
The project has 102 units. The project has 127 parking spaces.
Okay, thank you. Melanie, you were next. Go ahead.
Okay. So Diane, I read over all those paperwork, and so it looks like a lot of the appeal is based on off-menu items, that everything was slammed under off-menu items to get it pushed through easier, is what basically the complaint is.
You know, I'm gonna would you upgrade Robin, please?
Yeah, Robin actually was the first one on the list for public comment.
Yeah, and the other comment I have is my biggest concern down there in the Pacific Corridor down there, my family lives down there, right by where they're building this. And it's very heavy in traffic already. It's very dense and very heavy traffic wise. And that intersection at 13th and Gaffey, or Pacific, I mean, is very, very busy. They've had a lot of people get hit in the sidewalks. There's been a lot of accidents. It's an ongoing problem. And then to add 107 units right there, it's very concerning. That's a lot of density to add to that very congested area as it is right there on Pacific. And the traffic is a nightmare. So I'm just very concerned at that.
Thank you. Ray, I'm going to public comment. Is it 1 or 2 minutes, please?
Well, let's keep it at 2. if there's
Okay,
no-
great. Thank you. Then, Robin, you're first up. You could go ahead and unmute yourself.
Was there a question?
Well, Robin, I'm gonna respond to it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought she was just making a statement.
Well, I can do both.
Okay, great.
Let me first answer the question from Melanie. The law, the density bonus law requires floor area ratio and height to be on menu items, period. That's what the law says.
Mm-hmm.
But when the project didn't meet the requirements as on menu items, the city allowed the applicant to then move them to off menu, but that's not allowed. And that's one of our main appeal points. So, okay, so I'll start my 2 minutes of comments.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm Robin Rudisil, Coastal San Pedro. And as someone said, we hope you will join Coastal and Central in supporting this appeal, as we feel it's very important for us to be in solidarity. You might hear this appeal as just a policy difference of opinion and that the city is doing what the state allows. That is nonsense. Those are just excuses. We've poured over both the state and the city regulations. This is not a policy issue. In this appeal, we're talking about city planners who are making serious errors and abusing their discretion in approving this project. And we also had a lawyer look at it and summarize the many areas where the city violates its own law. In the appeal, we show how the city violated their regulations. But even looking at it big picture, It's clear on its face that a 77% floor area ratio bonus and a 55% height bonus are too much to ask for them to provide just 12 affordable units. For most projects, 35% is enough, and they're way double that, actually. If we don't get this straight now, it will haunt us on every project to follow. The city's violating and abusing their own laws, and it's not fair to us community members or the developers for that matter. And last but definitely not least, we are in favor of a project at this location, but we need to insist that Councilman Busqueda and the city do not allow projects such as this to become a precedent for San Pedro that does not adhere to the law, that's requesting such outrageous bonuses compared to the affordable housing provided, and that undermines our San Pedro community plan, and that contributes to significant adverse cumulative impact on the surrounding area. Every other day we learn of more corruption within our city, and we must do all we can to not let it happen in San Pedro.
Are you done?
That's it, thank you.
You beat the clock, so thank you, Robin.
Wow,
Next for public comment, is it Daniel Nord? Is that correct?
Hello? Hello?
Yeah, is this Daniel?
Yes, this is me.
Okay, it's your turn. Your 2 minutes have started.
Thank you. My name is Daniel Nord. I've lived and worked and owned property on Pacific for 18 years. I want to see responsible development on Pacific, but this is not it. The project violates regulations and will set irrevocable negative precedents, as Robin said. I'm asking you to support the appeal like the other two NCs and your land use committee recommends, so that these issues can be heard before the appropriate city agency. Tonight's meeting is not a hearing, although the applicant has created and uploaded a document called Applicant Rebuttal, attempting to legalize their dismissal of our community concerns. They distort and obfuscate a few cherry-picked points while completely omitting the most important issues, like falsified traffic and air quality studies, cumulative impacts, the high injury network, problems, tsunami and emergency services routes, insufficient affordable housing, and violating community and redevelopment plans. Everything is clearly documented in the 131-page appeal, and if you read it, you'll be stunned. It's important to note that these developers are flippers. They're not planning to build anything. They're violating all these rules to secure outrageous entitlements to the lot so they can turn around and flip the entitled lot and walk away with a load of cash. They already did this on Mesa. They have no responsibility for the final product or to our community, and they're using the cry of creating affordable housing to justify all the violations. But their flipping scheme actually inflates housing costs by adding middlemen. There are only 12 affordable units in this project. The other 90 are market rate. There are already 490 empty market rate apartments in San Pedro. On this part of Pacific, the median household income is just over $29,000. So 90% of the units will be unaffordable to local residents. The project is grossly out of sync with our community. Please support the appeal and reinforce the collective power of the neighborhood councils to send the message that San Pedro is not a lawless free-for-all.
Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate it. Your time is up. Next, we have Matthew DeMeglio. Go ahead. Your clock has started.
All right. Well, much like Daniel, I agree with this letter. It's about time that we start acting on density. But I also feel bad for the person doing this project, the developer, because for so long, even when I joined this board 5 years ago, we were having projects come in that were huge. They were huge. I think we had a few that were twice the size of this project. So it's just kind of shocking that we stand on this battlefield, but we don't stand on the ones before. So I just like to point that out. But I agree with this letter, and I'm glad that finally we're stepping up, all neighborhood councils, and talking about density, because it's gone too far. And I hope you guys continue this path further. So thank you.
Thank you. You also beat the clock. Next up, Noel, go ahead.
Thanks. Noel Gold, Coastal, San Pedro Neighborhood Council. And it's one of these situations where it's so vital that the neighborhood councils band together. Pat Nave and Diana, Pat wrote these fabulous letters and the draft motion that we are asking you to support. Spent a tremendous amount of time at the planning committee invited the developer. The developer had another opportunity almost for an entire hearing. Very important to note that the parking is unbundled. That means that it can be rented out to other people who are not even living there, for instance. Another factor of this project is that the only way, there are so many errors that city planning made and that the City Planning Commission made. The only way we can possibly fix those errors is to appeal this project to the City Council. And that's why we're asking for your support. This sets a horrible precedent for San Pedro. The only way we have any chance to fix it is through the appeal process. And that's why we're asking Northwest to support this appeal, as Central supported this appeal, as Coastal supported this appeal. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Noel. Next, we have Fran Siegel. Go ahead and unmute. You have 2 minutes.
Okay, hi, I'm Fran Siegel. I'm an artist and professor, and I've lived in San Pedro for almost 20 years. We hope that Northwest will join Coastal and Central and support our appeal. Just like Ponte Vista, redesign is part of the process to make projects serve the community better. This project does not conform to the San Pedro Community Plan, CPIO, or the Pacific Corridor Redevelopment Plan, which is valid until 2033, and actually was deliberately ignored by the developers and city planning. Now that they are aware of this, there needs to be a redesign for compliance, but they seem to have determined that it's cheaper to lobby than to work with the community and play by the rules. These design standards have been established by and for this community to contribute to the brand of our town and to benefit our quality of life. They must be upheld. What else would they be for? Some of the issues are that the project's proposed 4 floors is grossly out of sync with the surrounding neighborhood. There's no specific sidewalk frontal landscaping delineated, and in fact, they're proposing to remove 30 trees from the streetscape. The project reduces open space and setback requirements instead of providing them with no usable public space. This project does not provide for any utility or infrastructure upgrades that are already outdated and insufficient on Pacific, in violation of a policy LU 3.1. And the plans and renderings for this project that were provided to the community, the city, and the CPC are in error and misleading and must be corrected. If adherence to these plans is not addressed and enforced by our community, this will establish an unregulated entitlement field day for greedy out-of-town developers who will pillage our community for a quick buck, leaving oversized, cramped-in, unlandscaped, non-occupied blocks of prison-style cookie-cutter housing that no one can afford. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Alan Franz. Your 2 minutes start now. Once you unmute. Alan, you should be able to unmute.
Yeah, okay, I'm trying to get it to unmute.
Okay.
Okay, it apparently worked. Well, I'd like to thank Diana and Pat and the Neighborhood Council for considering this motion and the accompanying letter, which I think are really vital for San Pedro. We seek your support in this effort to get the City Council to review this really inappropriate plan. You and Northwest have, in the last decade or so, dealt with Ponte Vista and Seaport homes, which are not really assets to the community at this point. You have some density housing in the gardens that really provide open space and do a good job, but we need, for San Pedro as a whole, a clear precedent that Los Angeles Municipal Code, that the San Pedro Community Plan, the CPIO, and the Pacific Avenue Redevelopment Corridor, which the community developed, have value. We're not doormats for anybody with a wad of cash to come in and put in whatever they want. We need open space, like there is at least some of in the gardens. We need a community which, as per the Los Angeles Housing Element goal number 2, is safe, livable, and sustainable. And the current proposal will be profitable if it ultimately is built, but will not be safe, livable, or sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Lee Williams. Mr. Williams, Can you unmute yourself there? There you go. You should be able to do it now. Lee? Let me try that again. You should be able to unmute, Lee.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Your 2 minutes starts now, sir.
Great, thank you. I just wanted to, I'm not going to discuss the appeal so much because hearing from the city, it doesn't seem like it has a lot of merit. So, but I do want to remind folks that I think it's really important personally that we try to make sure that affordable housing is a component of every development that comes to San Pedro. I like the idea of spreading the affordable units out instead of creating ghettos and low income like sections of San Pedro. It's nice to have various income levels living together in different neighborhoods so that we can get that homogenized and interaction so that we don't have a more than and lesser than type living structure. And then second of all, I know people want to claim that flippers, they like to use the term flippers for folks that go in and get the entitlements on these projects, but it's discussions just like this one tonight that actually drive this business, because it's impossible for a builder to do this on their own, to invest the time and effort into a project like this and get it approved quickly enough for them to be able to get started. They have to employ other individuals to get the entitlements done in order to even get started on any of the developments in San Pedro. So I just want people to be mindful of that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Lee. Next I have Amy. I'm sorry, it's Army, my bad. You can go ahead and should be able to unmute yourself, and you have 2 minutes.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, my name is Army Linderborg, and I live right across the street from this proposed development. And Pat Nave mentions in his letter that the traffic study is very flawed, and it is. It gives 108 trips per day to a club that's been closed for 5 years. So it says that there'll be no cumulative traffic impact in this area, which I'm here to tell you is going to be detrimental and deadly. 127 parking spaces, all coming out on 14th Street, just above Pacific, which is an unregulated intersection. And then, as you know, on the other side of Pacific, 14th Street is the only street that goes all the way down to Harbor or Minor, whatever, you know, so it's a major neighborhood cut through. And it's already a super dangerous intersection, completely unregulated, adding all that traffic, people like zooming across Pacific, and it's right smack dab in the middle of 15th Street Elementary School, Dana Middle School, San Pedro City Ballet, and the Boys and Girls Club, basically the places that children walk all the time. And I just also, so anyways, just that alone is just, it's gonna be really detrimental to the neighborhood. And then also, there's going to be 12 low-income units, but the rest of the 102 units are going to be market rate. And I just want to point out that the community, the LA Housing Community Investment Development Department just did a study, and it's these high-end units that have these huge vacancy rates. So yes, those 12 units will probably go very quickly to very low-income people, and the rest of the building will sit empty. Like 550 Harborfront is sitting empty right now. Like the View has never filled up, always had tons of empty space. And all the other neighborhoods in the city that we can learn from, like downtown and Venice and Hollywood and Koreatown, that have had these massive apartment building explosions of development, they all have the highest vacancy rates. And the buildings with the highest vacancy rates are these high-end new developments. So
your time your allotted time is over. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ray, we still have about 4 more public comments. Do we have time for them? We're already at 8:40.
Yeah, we're way beyond. If we can just limit it to the last 4, and then we'll move on to that.
You want me to make them 1 minute instead of 2?
Well, everyone else has had 2. We should.
That's correct.
Keep it all consistent. Just these are going to be the last 4.
Okay. Did I call yet on Kenneth?
No.
Okay, go ahead, Kenneth.
Yes, I just wanted to point out that the LA Planning Department CEQA determination for this project was a categorical exemption, class 32, which requires, it's for infill development, but it requires that the project be consistent with the applicable general plan and all the general plan policies and zoning and so forth. And this project doesn't adhere to the community plan zoning requirements, the implementation, the plan implementation overlay, Pacific Corridor redevelopment plan, and the city codes. And you've already heard why with all the FAR and the height and setbacks. There are other issues here too that under that categorical exemption, there were some studies done, but there are issues to whether they were adequately reviewed by DOT or other departments. And the project also is required under the Class 32 categorical exemption that it can be adequately served by utilities and public services. But this hasn't been determined because there were no studies done that I'm aware of. And that would bring in potential cumulative impacts, which haven't been considered. You go up the street 7 blocks and there's a 100+ unit at 21st Street that's planned, that's in the works right now by the same developer. This is piecemealing. If you look at the whole situation in this area, you have a completed project at 1801 Mesa, the project at 21st Street, this project, and about 9 other large projects ongoing, plus a hotel development at 6th Street and Pacific, and no cumulative impacts for these various developments have been studied. A categorical exemption, first, doesn't even meet the requirements of the categorical exemption and should never have been approved. This needs an actual detailed CEQA assessment, either an EIR or, if it came to it, a mitigated negative declaration, but not a categorical exemption, and especially not a categorical exemption that is absolutely invalid by the things that have been given to the developers.
Thank
So
you
I
so
hope
much.
it's
I'm
important.
sorry your allotted time is up, but thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, I have Mona. Can you go ahead and unmute yourself?
Yes, I think I did that already. I would like to pose the question, what do we lose when the historical attributes of our community are destroyed? Well, we lose our sense of place, and our sense of being connected to one another is diminished. Now, in the case of San Pedro, we are seeing eroded the uniquely heterogeneous character of the community, which has been a prized asset here for a very long time. Some of that heterogeneous character is embodied in the Old Dancing Waters Club, La Zona Rosa. The Office of Historic Resources and the Cultural Heritage Commission identify 9 major contexts in which to evaluate preservation and historic worthiness. One of these contexts is ethnic cultural, but there's no this important context in the dismissal of the building as a non-contributor. However, the building has been an important local venue for Latin music, both in the 1960s, 70s, and later the 80s, and also an early punk venue. The uptown criteria used to dismiss this building as having no historical merit may be as out of scale as the new residential fortress replacing it surely will be. Please consider history. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. June Burlingame-Smith.
Hi, everybody. Thank you very much for listening to our plea to you to join the other neighborhood councils in supporting this appeal. I think what is at stake here is not just the unity of the neighborhood councils and the integrity of the neighborhood councils, but the integrity really of the classic, I think, appeal of San Pedro as a unique community. And I just marvel at the work that Diana and Pat and you guys have done. You fought so hard to make Western Avenue and that community accessible for all of us. And we're doing the same thing down at Pacific. So please, let's not get caught up in the details of this. The city has not followed its own guidelines. It has not honored what the community worked so hard to put together. And I don't know who it was that said that the council, they don't think there's any merit to the appeal, but I don't think they read all 131 pages because there are obvious illegalities here. And all we're asking is that this appeal be heard and that we make the city listen to the community. We are the community, not them. I thank you so much for everything you've done and are doing. I've been a member of the neighborhood council and chair and all that stuff. And it's just so important for our community to hang together and show the rest of the world that, no, we're not going to be divided.
Thank you, June. Ray, some more names popped up. We wanted to limit it. I just want to mention two things. Pat's name is on there, and he kind of drafted this thing. And also Jonathan Lawner, is he the developer? Because he's asking to get 1 minute for the project.
Yes, he's the developer. You should probably give him at least 2 minutes.
Okay, he only asked for one.
He said at least one, but yeah.
So you said you had 4, so I counted 3. Maybe I'm off on my math. Let's give Pat the final public comment, and then we'll go to Lana, and then we'll cut it off.
Go ahead, Mr. Nave.
We've been involved in planning in our local community for at least 50 years. And I think that's probably true of just about everybody that's in the room or attending this meeting. Our latest iteration of the local community plan provides for a population of about 125,000 people. And that's the impacts that were studied and for all of the zoning that's in the local community plan. Right now we have about 77,000. What this what the density bonus has done is just blow the top off of that and said, you can go right through the roof on that and pay no attention to what the local community plans and the environmental analyses for these plans have done. You can just go ahead and add a lot more units. So what the last sentence of the letter to Joe says, look, we should have the highest level of consistency possible with our community's efforts to provide good planning. Otherwise, our efforts are meaningless. That's kind of a decision standard. It's one that is kind of common in the law. And if you're going to make an exception, you make it as limited as possible. You stick with what you've done and where all of your work and your effort has been. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. All right, Jonathan, you've got the last word.
Thank you very much. We can debate ad nauseum the density bonus regulations from the state. And the appeal is factually incorrect in what those density bonus provisions allow. But irrespective of that, because your meeting has gone on so long, we talk a lot about the vision for San Pedro. We talk a lot about transparency, talk a lot about discussion, and that the purpose of the appeal is to have the discussion happen and those decision makers make a determination based on the full discussion of this project. And in terms of that, I just want to thank you and your neighborhood council and its commissions, because you're the only one that invited us to be part of that conversation. I know you stand by your neighborhood councils. I applaud you for doing that. But Central and Coastal didn't even include the project developer in this conversation. They both took positions without us at the table. So I question the sentiment that this is just so that our leaders can hear the vision of San Pedro and that it be adjudicated at the highest level. It's an attempt by a couple people that don't want a project in their neighborhood to happen in yours. So we applaud you as a neighborhood council for taking your initial support position. We applaud you for scheduling this and inviting us to talk about it. We clearly think that the appellant's position is incorrect, and you can point to other projects that have been supported and approved in San Pedro, around the city and throughout the state, that take the same point. But I just want to thank you for that.
That's your 2 minutes. Thank you, Jonathan. Ray or Diana, I'm turning it back over to you.
Ray. There's two, you've got two motions there, Ray. You can do them as one or you can do them as two.
Is there a conflict or any type of problem if it ends up, if we do it both at the same time? On the surface, I don't see a problem, but I'm more than willing to let it go as, you know, do them both at the same time.
I've got two board hands that are coming up. I don't know if,
We have to move the agenda.
well, they might be speaking on whether we vote as one or two. I don't know.
Well, the question is to Diana, since she's the chair of the, so Diana, do you have an opinion?
We actually did it as two separate ones at the planning committee, and we did have a slight difference in the vote on the two, so you may want to do it as two.
And that's good information. So let's do it as two. Diana,
Okay, so let's do the the resolution first and then the letter, which is the way it is agendized.
Right?
Yeah, if that's the way it was done, yeah, I want to be.
Well, that's the way it is on the agenda.
Then let's do it that way.
Okay, you ready for the vote?
Okay, board, go ahead and unmute yourself. Get ready to vote.
Here I come. Rock.
What's the question?
To approve this resolution at the moment.
Thank you. No.
Okay. Armando?
I'm a little bit confused right now.
Let me also put the agenda up for the short version. We're considering resolution supporting the appeal by citizens protecting San Pedro of the proposed development at 1309 to 1331 South Pacific Avenue.
Yeah, so I want to support our other two neighborhood councils.
Then that would be a yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. John Barbera?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Ron?
No.
John DeMeglio?
Yeah, I'm gonna also say that Rock is a real estate person, and he said should
John,
accuse
you
himself.
We're in the middle of a
I hope
vote,
he
John.
should accuse himself from this because he's a realtor. My vote
John,
is
please
yes.
just say your vote.
My vote is yes with the community.
Okay,
Thank you.
Dan?
Let's move on.
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Melanie?
Yes.
Sophia?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
9 yes, 2 no. Motion carries. Now, the vote for the letter, which let me put that up. This is the letter, and the short version of this motion is consider letter addressing impact of state density bonuses on local community plans. And then that's the letter.
Okay.
Rock?
Abstain. That's it.
Armando?
Emphatically, yes.
John Barbera?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Braun?
No.
John DeMeglio? John DeMeglio?
Yeah, thank you for sustaining Rock. Yes, I vote yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Melanie?
Yes.
Sophia?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
9 yes, 1 abstention, 1 no.
Can I just make one brief comment?
Okay.
Realtors do not make money off apartments, okay? Has nothing to do with us. It's just housing for everybody.
Thank you.
Okay.
Point well taken.
I've just a couple of other things real quick, Ray.
Oh, God.
Please make them quick.
Yeah, the first one is that there are several bills pending before the state legislature that would result in even more density being forced upon communities and the amount of affordable housing being required being reduced. I have put that information with tonight's agenda. We've not had a take a position on it, but I've also put there instructions for if you want to
All my stuff will be.
write a letter to the state legislature, the way to do it. So that's all on the website. And those are things that by and large would increase density and reduce affordable housing. And we probably won't have a chance to vote on it as a board because it's moving too fast. The second thing is that the next joint committee meeting will be this Thursday at 6 p.m. And one of the items, we'll be talking about that legislation, but one of the other items on the committee agenda will be the plans for the courthouse property. And then the next Northwest committee meeting, which will be on Thursday, July 30th, we will be hearing from the developer that wants to put in a restaurant called Raising Cane at the site of the former Marie Callender's, and it would also take the Broiler Express. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ray, we have Dan Dixon has his hand up.
Dan, is this on a particular agenda item? It seems like we're through. Dan?
He's muted.
Diana?
Sorry, my hand should not have been up.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Diana, the next meeting is Thursday the 16th, please,
Yes.
correct? Thank you, just checking. Okay.
Okay. Community issues. Dan, report? Any?
I will just say briefly that there are no motions or anything. I wanted to let the board know that the situation at the Gaffey Street to fuel depot point, service point, is that the Navy continues to put feelers out to see if anyone is interested in developing the property in some manner. And the request for qualifications by bidders was extended and closed on July 2nd. And according to the public information officer, who has been very helpful to us, the Navy will assess those RFQs and then issue a new RFP, request for projects. And his remark at the end of his email was, as things look right now, this could go on for years. I wouldn't be quite that optimistic, but it appears that there will be no real activity or motion for the rest of this year. We will keep an eye on it.
Okay.
And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. In the essence of time, port committee we don't have, but we really should think about resurrecting that committee. But I'd like to put some thought into that to see if there's anyone out there who would be interested in resurrecting the port committee. So sustainability, Gwen?
Nothing to report. Going to have a meeting. There's a joint sustainability meeting on the 21st, and hoping to have a meeting following that. The community gardens, the irrigation project is done. There was a period of time where you could apply for a lot. I believe that application process is still open, although you might be on a waiting list. Other than that, nothing really to speak to.
Okay. Thank you. Youth and outreach.
Yep,
Laura.
I love being at the tail end. I'll be quick. So obviously we all know that we're at a crisis situation. So our newsletter got printed and distributed very quickly after the approval at the last meeting. We've gotten some good feedback. People really appreciate getting a hard copy of resources to help them through the pandemic. And also homelessness, unfortunately, while we have been successful at housing people, we're still moving backwards, and the pandemic is creating a lot more issues with people being close to homelessness. So we've updated the resources on our website under homelessness. If you know of anybody who needs help, or if you need help, please look on there. There's some great resources, especially the Harbor Neighborhood Relief Fund, that can instantly give people some support. So that's it.
All right, great, thank you. Elections and bylaws. Braun or Diana?
Nothing at this point. We're going to have a meeting. It looks like early next month.
Okay. All right. Can you move the agenda up a little bit? Okay.
Wait, we're not addressing those two items under election and bylaws?
Yeah,
That was a motion.
I was on mute, I'm
What?
sorry.
Sorry.
Real quick,
Okay.
the bylaws changes that were approved by the board were approved by Dunn and are now in effect, and you all should have received a copy of the revised bylaws by email. When the city approved the bylaws, however, they also made two changes that they imposed, and they were things that the Board of Neighborhood Council Commissioners had developed those policies, and those are in Article 5, Sections 8 and 9. Section 8 deals with censure, and Section 9 deals with removal of board members. So those are two sections you have not seen before, and they are quite detailed. If indeed we wanted to remove somebody from the board or censure someone, you need to look at those sections. And the vacant seats were already announced, so I don't think I need to announce them again.
All right. I just want to kind of, if I can just make that comment. I mean, we had a very, very impassioned few meetings regarding the censure and removal. And it was an extremely tough decision to make. So you saw what the end result was. So people definitely have feelings on both sides of that issue, on those issues. So I'll leave it at that. Christensen Science Center, Chris or John, any quick updates?
Yeah, there hasn't been any activity. I haven't seen any communication from anybody at the district, who obviously has a bigger fish to fry right now. I don't think there's going to be any in-person anything for the foreseeable future. We'll let you know when that changes.
Yeah, I agree with Chris, and it's getting kind of scary, and what LA Unified is, how they're going to go forward at this point. Thank you.
All right, great, thank you. Okay, no Hank. You know, I'm wondering if Hank would ever be also resurrected. I think there's good and sometimes not as good used to a Hank meeting, but I'll tell you, I kind of miss him, because then you get a sense as to what's going on with the other neighborhood councils, not just in San Pedro, but in the whole harbor community. It's really important to keep ourselves in touch. Okay, so item number 9. Any board member that want to make a comment on non-agenda items? If anyone does, we'll just keep it to a minute. I see our Chris hand go up. So.
Okay, go ahead, Chris.
Armando's hand's up too.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Real briefly, it's a non-agenda item. And I guess, I don't know if I realize I'm supporting a particular candidate for an elected office, so this may not be appropriate. However, I am in the planning stages of a fundraising effort in support of our school board candidate, Patricia Castellanos, for some time in August. This will be an online meeting, basically a combination of question and answer roundtable discussion of educational issues with respect to, community involvement, the operation of the board and all that stuff. And so people who would like to be part of that conversation, and people who, have any familiarity with the candidate or would like to know more, please contact me and we will try and network, because we're trying to build a robust, kind of healthy conversation about this very important upcoming school board election, amongst other elections in November, which must go a particular way.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Armando?
Yes, anybody still interested in joining the homeless committee, let me know. No one has been asking for, prior to the NOV-19, I was asking people, but I've done a year's worth of research that I'd like to present to the board next meeting.
Armando, could you please talk to Ray offline about that? Okay, just follow up. Thank you. Gwen, you're next.
Never mind. for the sake
Okay.
of speeding up.
Okay, Dan, you're next.
Thank you. I just want to say that what we've heard tonight in planning and land use is very interesting. We hear a lot about tipping points in world affairs and local community affairs and everything swirling around us. But I really think San Pedro is at a tipping point. What we have treasured and bickered about San Pedro for many, many years is in the process of evolving in a different direction. And that saddens me, but perhaps there's some realism in thinking about it because the world is moving along. What I would ask the board to do, though, is look at the architectural renderings that Diana included in her package for this meeting. It's a series of 10 or 12 different renderings of proposed projects for here in San Pedro. I just got to say that if you disliked the apartments that were thrown up in San Pedro in the 70s and 80s, you got to equally be cautious about these renderings. What a motley collection of uninspired, crappy looking modern architecture. It may be useful, it may be functional, but it ain't San Pedro. Just something to think about. Take care.
Thank you, Dan. Melanie?
Yeah, everybody should have received an email from me tonight or earlier tonight, and it was sent from Loyola Marymount. They're trying to put together for the police to do an opinion type working group, type focus group together from the 14th to the 24th of July. And then what they're doing is using the focus groups to put together a survey that all the public's going to get on LAPD. So if you guys want to sign up for it, there's the email that you have to email that person that I put on the email and put your name and what day you're available and what time. And they'll get back to you.
Thank you, Melanie. Lori's raising her hand. I want to thank everybody on the board for being so patient. I'm exhausted. This is frustrating. I don't know what went wrong technically, but you've all been terrific. You've been great about muting and unmuting, well, most of you. And a lot of work goes into putting all of this together. And I just want to thank you. I hope that through this pandemic, that you're all trying to stay sane, that you're safe at home, that you're following all the things that you need to do to be healthy. And I just really wanted to thank you all and apologize for the way that this meeting unfortunately got thrown off, but I think we rolled with it. Thank you. Next, I have John DeMeglio.
Hi, I just wanted to comment on San Pedro itself. The Chamber, Planning and Land Use, and the real estate people are taking this town in their hands and ruining the community. And it's time for those people to start asking what the community wants. And it's not being done, and it needs to be done. It's getting way out of hand. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I believe our community spoke loud and clear tonight. Ray?
Okay. Hey, next month, just as a preview, next month we're going to be establishing our committee chairs and also liaisons. So I'm going to probably be talking to each chair individually about what it is that they have planned and if they're still interested and so on. And the liaisons, I think we've got some good direction with the motion passed earlier regarding engagement and involvement. So we'll be talking a little bit about that next over the course of the month, but definitely we'll be having that on our agenda for next month. All right, given the time, I'm going to entertain a motion to adjourn till August 10th.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
How about a robust discussion about, I'm just kidding. All in,
Leaving, clicking, leaving.
all in favor?
I'd like
Thanks,
to thank
everybody.
I'd like to thank the Academy and
All right,
City
all.
council has some real problems.
All right,
Good
guys.
job, all.
Thanks, everybody.
Stay safe,
y'all.
stay
Take
healthy,
care. Be safe.
take care.
Bye.
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 I'd like to say something.
Oh, geez. Who's that?
Armando.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you a call tomorrow morning.
Let me call you when I have a break from work. Is that okay?
All right.
All right, cool. Thanks.
Take care.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks to the public too.
Bye-bye.